4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studio in New York City. A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
All right, folks, welcome aboard. Lots to get to today. As you heard in the news, a 10-year sentence for the former Democratic mayor. I want to stress there's a D next to his name. I can't make it with my fingers, but if you look at the media coverage today, you would be hard-pressed to find the party affiliation of Ray Nagin. That's what they call media bias. He got sentenced to 10 years for his being found guilty in a corruption scandal in the city of New Orleans. So we'll talk a little bit more about that with the panel. We also have the Road to the White House continuing today, our series that is taking place all week in the middle hour. Today we'll take a look at the possible presidential candidacy of one Senator Rand Paul. And Larry Sabato, I'm very happy to say, will be here to discuss that possibility. And it should be very, very interesting. Also, very, very interesting and disappointing, back to media bias, is the way they are covering the Israeli-Palestinian war, the war with Hamas, referring to Hamas as militants or soldiers, when in fact they are terrorists, because we being the United States, recognize Hamas as a terrorist organization. So does Israel, and so does most of the world. But yet, 9-1. The three major networks, according to the Media Research Center, have referred to Hamas as militants or fighters and not terrorists. What are you going to do? It is what it is. All right. I want us to watch Barack Obama, 2011. Then we'll get to former Congressman Tancredo. Watch.
But even though we've answered these concerns, I've got to say I suspect there's still going to be some who are trying to move the goalposts on us one more time. You know, they said we needed to triple the Border Patrol. Or now they're going to say we need to quadruple the Border Patrol. Or they'll want a higher fence. Maybe they'll need a moat. Maybe they want alligators in the moat.
All right, the president doing what he does best. That was back in 2011. Joining us now is former Congressman Tom Tancredo, Republican from the great state of Colorado, and of course, former presidential candidate and a long-time anti-amnesty advocate. And it's great to talk to you again, sir. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to join you.
All right. So, I mean, you know, there was the president 3 years ago, and I don't know, maybe if he put in some of the things he claimed Republicans wanted him to do, we wouldn't be where we are. But we are where we are. And you wrote a very interesting piece that talks about how bizarre this could all get, that these illegals, these kids who are coming over the border, might actually one day join in some kind of class action lawsuit. I don't know if you were being fictitious here or not, but you made a great point, because there's probably a lot of reasons that they could form that and sue, and maybe even emerge victorious. Talk about it.
Yeah, well, it's only half joking, I suppose, in terms of what they're promised by the Obama administration in particular, and just what they believe will be the case in America, and what the reality might very well be for them. You know, if they're escaping violence and they end up in Chicago or New York or one of any of a dozen or so cities in the United States where violence is predominant in terms of the way the culture works out, they've really not escaped anything. If they're coming to escape poverty, the reality is that we have the highest number of people, youngsters especially, in poverty in the Western world, we're told. Much of that, of course, is the result that we do import our own poverty as a result of our particular immigration policy. We have the highest rate of incarceration of any place in the world, any country in the world. So, you know, it's perhaps not the nirvana that they are being told exists. Maybe they have a class action suit on their hands.
Well, you know, things could get that bizarre. Nothing would shock me anymore. But let's talk about what's going on today and what led up to today. The president going to Texas, of course, in Texas for a fundraiser, 3 fundraisers in 2 days. Turned down an invitation to come to the border, still will not go to the border. Turned down an invitation at first to meet with Rick Perry, then offered him a tarmac meeting, and now Perry's going to sit down at a meeting of the clergy and may get a one-on-one. What on earth is going through the president's head that he will not go to the border? Democrats joining Republicans in asking that question and urging him to go. How could he not go?
Right. Well, that's an excellent question. But when you're in the second of your when you're in the second term of your presidency, there's not a lot that you have to do in terms of even the politics of it. I mean, he recognizes fully well that he can do pretty much what he wants to do. If Congress won't go along with him, he can act unconstitutionally and sign a set of executive orders and force the bureaucracy into doing something that he wants. He also recognizes that going to the border would put him in a peculiar situation, in that he would be observing something that he would have to, on the one hand, decry because of the conditions, because of the fact that most of these people coming across are children and what's happening to them, and on the other hand, would have to take responsibility for, because he indeed is, and his policies and even his messages to South and Central America are the reason we see this happening. So it's a peculiar situation he just doesn't want to face, I would suppose.
And let me ask you a series of questions on this whole thing. First of all, do you think this is intentional, as Louis Gohmert told me and others have believed, that that this was the intent of this administration, and that's why they took out ads in January asking for escorts for illegal children to the tune of 60,000 children strong, that they knew this was going to happen and this is what the president wants? Or are you of the school of thought that says, no, the president's going to, this is bad for him and he's going to wind up sending these kids back? Because I don't buy the latter.
No, it's not going to happen. They're not going back. Understand that. I mean, please listen carefully, anybody out there who's paying attention. Just because he is saying he wants more judges and more people to devote themselves to the process of returning these folks, it will not happen. And here's why. When you enter into the country illegally and intend to make some claim, what doesn't matter what it is, that you can't go back for various reasons. Right. What you get usually is a letter telling you to come back, and in the vernacular, it's actually called a run letter, because that means when you get the letter, you run. Nobody ever comes back to have the hearing. The hearing, right? It doesn't matter how many judges you have. Nobody comes back for the hearing. You see, that's the point. And nobody gets deported even when they come back for the hearing, and even when they're ordered deported. It doesn't happen. So it's all typical. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's what he does so well. He dissembles. He is a master at this. And so here he is going to be able to take on this mantle of trying to solve this horrible problem. Please, Congress, give me the money and everything will be okay. Well, no, it won't be okay. None of these people will go back home, I will tell you. And yes, I believe entirely that this is engineered a phenomena. It is, well, first of all, just as Louis said, you have messages to Homeland Security. We have identified the communications to Homeland Security that tells them, get ready, this is going to happen, right? Somebody somehow knew about it. On the other hand, do you think that truthfully, all of a sudden one day, hundreds of thousands of people sort of amassed at various locations throughout South and Central America spontaneously and decided to trek northward and come through Mexico, which of course is that's a very difficult thing to do unless
Absolutely.
The Mexican government.
Yeah. Well, and it's as if you hear the left talking about the violence they're fleeing. It's as if the violence in these countries, these 3 countries in particular, all of a sudden have spiked. All of a sudden, on a dime, has gotten so intense that all these kids had to come over. And here's a question: this president who has selectively enforced and not enforced existing laws routinely on welfare reform, on the Affordable Care Act, on immigration. Why doesn't he just say, if it's the Bush-era law that was designed to protect child smuggling that is hampering the effort to send them out of the country now, even though that wasn't the intent of that law, then why just say, we're not going to enforce that law? He's done it before.
That's for sure. Or why not just say, sign an executive order saying all these people are to be returned, put them on buses or planes, send them back to the countries from which they came, and have the governments there take care of it. And you talk to your ambassador in each country, and you explain to them that this is what's going to happen, and you explain that you want them to tell the government, the host government, that this is what's going to occur, that they better get ready because the people are coming back. He could do that. He certainly has acted it unilaterally on more than one occasion. I would certainly say unconstitutionally. On more than one occasion, he has no qualms about it. It's because this, of course, is not part of the deal. The idea of sending them back, it will not happen. This is all part of a plan. I know how this sounds. I know how people immediately go, oh, there's a conspiracy theorist out there. No, look, it's not a conspiracy if he tells the world what he wants. If Obama says on numerous occasions, I intend to fundamentally transform America, and then he begins doing it, it's not a conspiracy.
Right.
This is absolutely part of that.
Congressman, great to talk to you,
Likewise,
sir. I look forward to talking to you again. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Former Congressman Tom Tancredo from the great state of Colorado. And, look, this is a president who is being taken to court by the Speaker of the House for violating the law, picking and choosing what laws he'll enforce and not enforce unilaterally, for overstepping his constitutional bounds. So why doesn't he do it on this? Why doesn't he say, I'm sending these kids back. Here's my executive order. I'm not going to enforce the Bush-era law because I decided it, like he's decided on so many others. We'll talk about it with the panel when we come back right here on the Steve Malzberg Show.